All right, today we're digging into a truly incredible story. It's about a piece of software that, by all rights, should have vanished decades ago. But it didn't. It's still here. This is the tale of a ghost in the machine.
So let me ask you a question. What if you could take an operating system, one that was designed and written way back in 1987, and run it today on a brand new computer, something like a Raspberry Pi? I mean, that sounds pretty much impossible, right?
Well, it's not impossible. It's very, very possible. Meet RISC OS. This is the ultimate unlikely survivor of the absolutely brutal OS wars of the 80s and 90s. And its story, man, it's a roller coaster of innovation, collapse, and then this incredible community-driven resurrection.
Okay, so let's dive right in. To really get how this OS survived, we've got to go back to the beginning, back to its origins, and figure out what made it so special in the first place. So, RISC OS was born over in Cambridge, England. It was created by a company called Acorn Computers. Now, Acorn, they're famous for another little invention you've probably heard of, the ARM processor. Yep, that's the one. The same processor architecture that's now powering literally billions of devices. The phone in your pocket, the tablet on your desk. And RISC OS, it was the original native operating system for that world-changing chip.
And back in its heyday, RISC OS wasn't just another operating system. No way. It was like a glimpse into the future of computing. I mean, it was doing things that the early Macs and PCs running Windows, well, they could only dream of this stuff.
And the development was moving at lightning speed. The first version, which was actually called Arthur, came out in '87. Then boom! Just 2 years later, you get RISC OS 2. And then, in 1991, the super feature-packed RISC OS 3. The pace of innovation was just relentless.
I mean, just look at how far ahead of the curve this thing was. Get this. RISC OS was the very first operating system with scalable anti-aliased fonts. That's what makes text on a screen look all smooth and nice. And they had it years before anyone else. It had this super logical 3-button mouse. It had these unique, self-contained application directories. You just drag an app to install it. You could even save a file by dragging its icon out of the app and dropping it right into a folder. And the best part? The core of the OS was stored in ROM, so it booted up instantly. No waiting.
And its whole approach to multitasking was, well, you could say it was very British. It was cooperative. So instead of the OS forcefully jumping between programs, each application was basically written to politely say, "Pardon me, I'm done for now. You can have a go." It's kind of a quaint idea, right? But it was incredibly efficient on the hardware they had back then.
But of course, the good times couldn't last forever. Acorn's fortunes started to fade, and by the late 90s, this OS that was so far ahead of its time was suddenly facing extinction. And what happened next? Well, it led to a really messy and confusing split.
Yep, in 1999, the hammer finally fell. Acorn Computers just stopped all work on the OS. And just like that, with no one steering the ship, the whole project fractured. Its future was thrown into absolute chaos. So the OS basically split into two competing branches. On one side, you had a company called RISCO's Ltd. They kept working on the original code, but they made a proprietary, closed source. Then on the other side, you had Castle Technology. They took a totally different route. They built their version, RISC OS 5, on some later work Acorn had been doing, and they rewrote it from modern 32-bit hardware. And this is the crucial part. They set it on the path to becoming open source.
Now, a split like this could have easily been the death of the operating system. But instead, something really amazing happened. The user base, these incredibly passionate people who had loved this quirky, powerful system for years, they just refused to let it die. The community, they became its savior.
And this mission statement, really, it says it all. A brand new organization, RISC OS Open Limited, or RULE for short, was formed by the community. And their goal wasn't just to keep the lights on. It was to safeguard its past, but also to actively build its future and to do it for everyone.
And you know what? They actually did it. They succeeded. First, in 2006, the source code was opened up under what they called a shared source license, which let the community start pitching in. Then came the big one. In a truly landmark moment in 2018, RISC OS 5, that modern 32-bit branch was officially made fully open source. That secured its survival for good. But the community didn't just save the OS, they modernized it, which is just incredible. Thanks to all their hard work, this operating system from 1987 now runs on a whole bunch of modern ARM-based computers. And yet, most famously, that includes the entire line of Raspberry Pi devices. How cool is that?
So, why should you care about this quirky, old operating system? Well, because its story isn't just some random piece of tech trivia. It's a really powerful lesson in innovation, and it's an amazing testament to the power of community.
38 years. For 38 years, this operating system has somehow survived against all odds. I mean, in the crazy, fast-moving world of tech, that alone is just astounding.
When you look at its legacy, it really comes down to three big things. First, it pioneered concepts we completely take for granted today, like those smooth fonts and that easy drag and drop. Second, it was the OG operating system for the ARM chip, the silent giant that powers pretty much our entire modern world. And finally, and maybe this is the biggest takeaway, it's living proof that a small group of dedicated, passionate people can keep a brilliant idea alive, even when the big corporations walk away.
And the story of RISC OS leaves us with a really fascinating question, especially for today's tech world. In an age that's so dominated by just a handful of giant companies, is there still room for software that's built not for profit, but purely for the love of it? The fact that RISC OS is still here, still chugging along, well, that seems to suggest that the answer is a resounding yes.